Hi again then guys, and welcome to another Special Projects custom build, and this is, as we sometimes do, a requested build for a custom vehicle, and this is kind of inspired by the Group B homologation build that I did for the Fiat Panda. That was very well received. I didn't expect it to be as well received as it was, but it was cool to see that some of you guys also like the concept of making fictional homologation vehicles, especially for rallying. Now this requested build is for a more specific vehicle, and the vehicle is the Honda City Turbo 2. This is a ripe vehicle for making a homologation build out of. It already looks like a rally car homologation, and although I don't believe there was a Group S or Group B rally version of it, you could imagine there being one very easily. It certainly looks the part, even more so than the Fiat Panda does. Now visually, all I've done is painted the car black, and the reason why I've done that is actually as a slight homage to a very, very rare Group B Toyota rally car based on the MR2. I can't recall the name of that car, but it's ultra rare. I don't believe it ever actually raced, but although it's a different company, it kind of reminded me of the look of this car. So I've opted for black, but obviously you can go for whatever colour you want. The black that I've used is called Crystal Galaxit Black from the Mercedes SLR McLaren. And for this build, I opted to leave the rims stock because they look really cool. I love steel wheels. I wish we could fit those to more cars on the game, but I've opted to leave those stock because they have more of a base rally car kind of feel to them. So, as far as the visuals, it's really simple. So we'll go, first of all, over to the mechanical tuning garage, of course, and then take it out to a track. Now, as well as being a fun build, I wanted to make this one usable, PP-wise, and it is, very much so. 475 PP, as you can see. I've opted for sport soft tyres. Obviously, that'll be dependent on the driver, the situation, etc. I've left the brakes standard, as I often do with more road-based builds, because you don't want the car to feel too good. As far as suspension, I've lowered the ride height slightly to 140. Springs I've increased slightly to 275 and 2. The dampers and anti-roll I've reduced to 2, again to make it feel its age, feel more authentic, have that little bit of body roll that's appropriate to a road car. The camber and toe we've got neutral. We'll come back to the gearbox in just a second. As far as the clutch and flywheel, you could go for the twin plate because you've got less torque and power to deal with, but I've opted to leave it stock again. For the diff, as usual, I would recommend changing this for your personal requirements, as many of you do anyway, but for initial torque I've gone for the lowest on this car, highest on acceleration, and lowest on braking. As far as power, as you can see, I've gone for 200 horsepower, which is a typical kind of level for a homologation car. Now, I don't actually believe that this car would have had that much power in real life. I believe it would have had more like 170, maybe 180-ish, but who cares? Let's have some fun with it. So 200 horsepower is what I've gone for, and to get that, I've gone for an oil change, plus a Stage 3 engine tune, high RPM turbo, which is pretty much a definite for this car, and I've opted for intake tuning. As far as the weight, I didn't want to go crazy with it. I wanted it to be a realistic weight difference. The standard car weighs 735 kilos, so we've dropped that by a pretty realistic 45 kilos with the full weight loss package, and then a 37 kilo ballast, which I've put all the way to the back for 3 reasons. 1, to improve the weight distribution. 2, to give it an improved but also realistic weight drop, and also, of course, to make it rounded off to 475 pp. And finally, for the gearbox, obviously being a rally-based concept, you're not really geared for top speed, it's more for acceleration. So I've gone for an auto setting of 149, then individual gears of 2.4, 1.6, 1.2, 925 and 775, with a final drive of 3.5, and that's good enough for a top speed of around 130, 140-ish, maybe a little more, a little less, which is roughly the kind of speed that you'd expect from a car like this in real life. So that's overall for what I've opted for this fictional build. But now let's take it out to Suzuka to see just how it performs. Now, with a build like this, of course, there are three primary things which I try to achieve. One is to make it authentic, to make it feel like it could be in real life. Don't go too extreme with it, but at the same time make enough of a difference for it to be a cool end result, basically. The second thing is to, if at all possible, make it usable, so that it's not just fun, but that you can race with it or use it in seasonals or time trials if you so choose. And the third thing is to make the car just fun to drive. This has all three. It looks authentic, it certainly performs in an authentic way, it's quick in a straight line. The handling has a bit of a softness to it, as do the brakes, which again is appropriate to a 1980s homologation style machine. And overall, I'm personally really happy with the way this car turned out, and for those of you who do decide to use it, I think you'll find it very fun as well. And potentially, if you do stiffen up the suspension a little perhaps, pretty good for 475 pp racing as well. But that's it overall for this build, and if you'd like to keep up with others like it in the future, be sure to subscribe down below. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.